anger, fear, resentment, guilt. Oh God, those are just a few of toxic emotions. And I know I've had toxic emotions and I know you have toxic emotions. So we're going to talk about that today because I also want to talk to you about where it's stored in your body and why it's so important that you process it. And by holding on to it, you think that you're protecting yourself, but you're not. You're not. You're actually harming yourself more than you are protecting yourself. So welcome back to the Positivity Experience. Let's unbox these toxic emotions. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience Toolbox. It's your girl Lori, and I'm doing something different this week, and it might be something that I do forever if you guys want it, but I'm recording this as a video podcast as well. So this doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to listen to it on the regular podcast. You absolutely will. It's just going to give you the options because I've had people ask me if I could just do it as a video because sometimes people like that, and this podcast is for you. So I'm going to do it as much as you guys want it to. Give me a little, be kind because this is my first week doing the video piece of it. So there's going to be some bumps and bruises, I'm sure, and I'm going to want to get a different backdrop, but I just want to see if you guys even like it in the first place. But this does not affect the podcast whatsoever, but it'll be released probably like a couple hours before the regular podcast. So you have your choices. And over on the Patreon today, we're talking about having a better relationship with money. Not fearing it, not feeling hampered by it. So we're going to talk about that over on the Patreon. If you'd like to become a Patreon, you're welcome to. It's patreon.com/the Positivity Experience, or you can just go anywhere that you're getting this podcast right now. You'll be able to get it in the show notes if that's your thing. But I really want to talk to you today about these toxic emotions. So this doesn't mean that you're not supposed to have them. This doesn't mean that you're meant to be a Roomba, that you're going to have no emotions. It isn't the problem that you have emotions. The issue becomes when you allow them to overtake you. And I don't mean oh my gosh, you kind of lost it for a minute. You got mad at somebody. No. Where it lingers, right? There's multitude of things that could be causing that. But I really want to talk to you about where you're storing it in your body, why you want to release it. I mean, you obviously want to feel better, but you also want to release it in general because it's just not healthy for you. It riddles your body with so much. And so it's very important that you understand the level of, I want to call it problems, the level of issues that it actually creates for you yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, and this is hard for people to hear, but you can be mad at somebody. Really, they don't care. Some people might be like, oh, I'm sad that person's mad at me, but no one's going to lose sleep over this. I mean, some people, if you're an overthinker and you think people are mad at you, you'll lose sleep over it. But typically, people are still going to go about their business, right? And so as you're carrying these resentments, because bitterness, resentment, guilt, fear, frustration, anger, and we know anger is fear, frustration, and hurt, right? And I want to talk to you about various places that you're keeping it in your body and how you can really work on it, which every bit of my content is really about how you can work on it. And here's the thing. Some of you aren't going to like it because it is I'm putting the accountability on you. I'm going to always put the accountability on you. You don't have to like it. But your issue, one of the biggest issues is blaming people. I blame my childhood. Believe me, I lived that life. I'm writing about it in my book. Oh my God, I lived that life and it's not what I recommend. It's just a very isolating place. But you're blaming people. You're waiting for somebody to change. You're waiting for somebody to take accountability. You're waiting for these things to happen. And guess what? Guess who that's harming? You. It's harming you. That is the only person that it's harming. It really is. Now, that's not really true because if you're frustrated and you're angry, you can take that out on other people. But it is going to hurt you more, right? Because then at the end of the day, if you're frustrated, I think I've used this example before. If I'm looking for something, let's say I have a session and I can't find my phone or something and I'm a little flustered. I'm like, oh my God, where is it? Where is it? And then somebody says, hey, what are you doing for dinner? And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So that's misplaced anger and that's no one's responsibility. It is no one's responsibility that you are frustrated. And it really isn't. It isn't anybody's responsibility. So that's the self-accountability. You know how you're always trying to, this person needs to do this person needs to do that. That's another thing that causes frustration. But it's not accepting somebody as they are. You have to accept people as they are. You don't have to love it. You don't have to like it. But you do have to either accept it and distance from it, or accept it and say, oh, okay, I can deal with that, because it isn't going to be something that people are going to change for you. That goes into ego, which we have over on YouTube. I have tons of stuff on ego. We will talk about it in a podcast. I'll make it a video podcast. But it's so important that you understand that when you are holding on to resentment, okay, so let's talk about resentment specifically, okay? When you're holding on to resentment, think about how that makes you feel. You're sitting in bed. It's 2:00 in the morning. You're so mad. You're like, I don't even understand it. Like, why? Like, oh my God, I'm so mad at this person. Again, this person's not losing sleep over you. You're going to have to accept that. This person may never apologize to you. They may never take accountability. They do not really even have to. They really don't have to. And that's a hard one for people, because you want people to have justice. And I hear you. We all would like that in a perfect world. But if you're holding out on that, you are going to create more anger and more frustration for yourself. So I want to talk to you about certain places of your body that you're holding this. And then I'll talk to you about areas and ways that you can release these things. And it's going to be things that it's not going to happen overnight. You're not just going to switch on a dime. You're not going to listen to one podcast, have 4 therapy sessions, and all of a sudden you're fine. It doesn't work that way. This is a lifelong, you heard me, lifelong, not fast fix, not fast fix. This is a lifelong journey. This journey is so important because it's your work to do, and you will go backwards, right? You're supposed to. There's no direct approach. You're not just going to go up a hill and be like, oh my God, look at me. I'm so good right now. I'm feeling so much better. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. It just really isn't going to happen. And so you have to be okay with it. And you also have to be okay with, as you're processing it, other people may not be on this journey supporting you. They might not be a part of that. And unfortunately, that just comes with the nature of the beast, right? Because you can't want to heal and want everybody to just kind of know that you're healing, and then they're not supporting you. Now you're frustrated. Now we're getting into toxic emotions again. And again, I lived it. Like I said, I've been writing about it in my book. I'm like, oh my God, I was so ingrained with this toxicity in my system, because remember the rule: trauma is never your responsibility. Healing it is always your responsibility. Okay. Why is it fair? It's not fair. You're going to have to just radically accept that right now. It is not fair. Healing is not fair, because you're like, I would have never been put in this position. That's fine. That's a reason. Do not allow it to become an excuse. Okay. Very important. So I want to talk to you about anger first. Anger is something that, anger is a really big emotion. And it's stored in other areas of your body, right? So as I'm giving you the main places that the anger is stored, and different places are stored, doesn't mean that it's the only place. It's just, I want you to understand. So lower back. Anger lives in your lower back. Now, if you pull your back out, it doesn't always mean it's because of anger. So don't go to the doctor talking about, I'm angry and I have an angry back. Okay. Yeah, there could be a multitude of things. You could have a slip disc, you could have things, but I want you to understand that anger and emotion itself sits in your lower back, right? So if you're like, oh my God, I'm so tense there, and you know that there's not really a medical issue with it, or you're feeling like certain pains and tightness, yeah, you're storing it in your body. Like I said, you got to get the book, the anger, Your Body Keeps the Score, because it's a really good book. It's a book that, as I was learning, emotional maturity and regulation, but also emotional and human behavior. That was one of the things that they had us read. And so it was actually quite amazing, and learned so much from it. So you have to keep in mind that your anger and your emotions don't just live in your brain. They live in your body. That's your mind, body, and spirit in some ways, but mind and body connection. All right. So that's anger. Now, if you've ever sat with a stomach, like where you're like, oh my gosh. And again, it could be a medical issue, assuming that it's not a medical issue. And you're like, God, I just keep getting these stomach aches. Like, that's fear. Fear lives in your stomach. Yes, it's all in your body, but it lives in your stomach. It kind of lives in your adrenals too, right? Because your adrenals, like that's where we release our cortisol and stuff, but it really lives in your stomach. So this is why if you see younger children who don't really understand emotions yet, they'll go, I have a stomach ache. I have a stomach ache. I have a stomach ache, because they're afraid, right? That's what fear is. But again, fear is not real. I mean, it feels real, but fear is false evidence appearing real. Like it feels real to you. It feels debilitating. But if you allow the fear to control you, the fear will always control you. And this is why, at least in my practice, we don't avoid triggers. We go head first with these triggers. You have to feel the discomfort. You have to feel this is discomfort. Nobody said it's fun. No one said it's easy. Of course it's hard, but isn't it harder to live in fear? Right? Because it's radical acceptance of it is what it is. You can't prevent things from happening. If you've been watching the news, you could go to a concert, you can go to church, you can go to a grocery store, you can go to school. A lot of things you could get shot. You just don't know what's going to happen. But if you live in chronic fear of these things, it's going to overtake you. And then your quality of life is just going to go right down the tubes. So as you can feel this in your stomach, you're like, oh, I'm so nauseous and all of these things. Yeah, that's rooted in fear, which is why you holding in your emotions. Now, I'm not saying run around like vomiting your emotions to everyone either, because no, it's not their job to process it. And that's a real important one to get. It is no one else's responsibility to process your emotions. Nope, it is not. Okay. Now, this is why this is important for you to understand this back thing, right? From anger, stomach thing from fear. Now imagine you got both of those. You're like, oh my gosh, my stomach, my back. You might be running to the bathroom left and right. Like there's all these things that are going on, right? Now, the next obvious one is your hurt, right? Your hurt. You ever hear somebody say, I have a heartache? Well, it feels heavy on the chest. It feels painful on the chest. It feels nagging on the chest. It feels like, oh God, like there's a brick on it feels empty. It feels hollow and it's in here, right? So heartbreak is a true thing, but holding on to that heartbreak is what's going to hurt you. You're supposed to mourn. You mourn things that you mourn people passing, you mourn relationships that are no longer, you mourn various things. You're allowed to get your feelings hurt. But if you live there, it literally can create health problems for you, right? That hurt can create health problems for you, which is why you have to process it. And we're going to talk about processing it in a minute. But it is important that you understand that it's not abnormal to have it. And it's not abnormal for any of this. But I just want you to realize that holding on to the hurt, you don't get special brownie points for it. I talk about that a lot in grief counseling, where people, like, they start to have a good time. And then they say, oh my God, I feel good. Why do I feel good? I feel guilty for feeling good. Why do I feel like if your grandmother passed away, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I should not be happy. Why should I be? Why? You not being happy, by the way, people mourn vastly different. My sister passed one day. I was at my ex-husband's wedding the next day. Like everybody processes different. Doesn't mean that because you're not sitting in a corner crying and you've canceled all your plans and you don't know how you're going to, that doesn't mean that one person loves somebody more. So you also have to be careful if you're seeing somebody who is hurt and you think, well, they're not hurt. Says who? Says you? Because that's not how you react? No, that goes into ego. Everybody hurts and recovers from that hurt vastly different. Like vastly different. So it's very important that you understand that entire process, because your expectations of other people doing and reacting as you would is going to keep you in frustration, because a human being does not have to act as you do. They do not have to respond as you do. Now, if it really doesn't align with you, then you're going to have to distance. It could be a mom. It could be a spouse. It could be kids. It could be, not young kids, like grown kids. It could be in a multitude of things. But here's the reality. People do not have to act as you do. They do not have to change because you want them to. You can either accept it as it is, or you're going to sit there and you're going to carry this pain in your heart, in your back, and in your stomach. Right? Because you're going to have fear of losing somebody. You're going to have anger because they're not changing. You see what I mean? So do you see how this all goes hand in hand? Like there's this little, like they're all connected. Your wire is and we can rewire it, but you are wired and connected in that aspect. Oh, your neck and shoulders, overwhelm. So I call them shoulder earrings. And Think of a shoulder, like, of course, you're not really with your shoulders in your ears, but sometimes right now, just drop your shoulders. Now, maybe they were already down. You're like, oh, they're already down. But if not, then you kind of had the shoulder earrings. That comes with being overwhelmed. This is why, and we're going to have tons of different content on it. This is why you have to do the micro goals. This is why you have to process your stuff. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can unbox this overwhelm, but it's important that you understand where it all lives. So, you could be like, gosh, but I'm overwhelmed and then I'm angry. Yeah. Well, you're going to be all kinds of like a pretzel. You're going to be like a pretzel. You're going to be all jumbled up because you're in pain and you're hurting. Also, if you're numb, if you've ever felt numbness, like full on where you're just like, I don't know how I feel. That's from trauma. That's not abnormal. Like now, and trauma is not just towards you, right? Like you could see something and just go, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to respond to things. I get that a lot. Believe it or not, I've had clients go, there was recently a big derailment with all these chemicals in Ohio. And I have clients in pretty much almost all states, almost, not all of them. And, they're a little worried who were kind of close, like, oh my God, like, what do you do? Well, of course, and I'm not going to get into that here, but, there's a lot of things, there's things that you have to always stand up for yourself as far as like, if you don't feel comfortable being somewhere, then you're going to have to get out of it, kind of thing. And so anyway, but when you're kind of numb to it because you're like, oh my God, I have so much fear. What if these things happen? What if this happens? What if that happens? Well, that what if is going to constantly not just put fear in you, but you're going to feel numb. Like, if you've ever lost a parent or a grandparent or somebody close to you, you're almost like, I'm not really sure how I feel. Or if you get broken up with, or you're just like, I don't know. I'm numb. I have no emotional, that's from trauma, right? Now, often you're going to find that sometimes if it's not trauma of other people, trauma of self, you're going to hold resentment. That's where fatigue comes in. And again, all of this is to say if it isn't a medical issue causing it, okay? But fatigue is a known, scientifically proven, it is known to be associated with your resentments. So think about the fact of how much energy it takes to resent somebody. You're not letting it go. You're carrying it with you. You're harboring it. See, you're in this disillusion. I don't even know if that's a word. Let's say, I don't think that's right. Let's go with illusion. You're in this illusion that by holding on to this resentment that you're protecting your peace. You're not. That person owns you. That situation owns you. You're allowing it. They don't even know that they own you, but they own you. They're living rent-free in your headspace. So think about how tiring that is. You're laying in bed and you're like, I don't understand it. Oh my God, why would they do that? How could they do that? Okay, you're laying there and your adrenals are going, yeah, man, let's get fired up. Your cortisol is being released. All these things are happening. Now you're holding all of this. You don't think that's tiring? Oh my God, that's like super tiring. Oh yeah, and anxiety. Let's talk about anxiety. So I'll tell you how in the past, how my anxiety, other than not being able to swallow, for some odd reason, my anxiety kicks in and it's like, oh my God, I can't swallow. But that's not outside the norm. It's very normal, but that's not what I'm talking about here. If you've ever noticed your breathing go shallow, you feel like you're either breathing too fast, you're breathing too slow, but your breathing is affected by your anxiety, right? And I know sometimes, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but if I have anxiety, I feel like I can't get that deep breath. Like if I yawn, hopefully I made you guys yawn, but if I yawn and I'm not in anxiety, I can get that sort of like this relief breath. Well, when you have anxiety, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I can't get that breath. Oh my God, I can't get that breath. Well, now what did you just do? You just triggered fear. You just triggered, oh my God, what does this mean? Holy cow. Now you're a little overwhelmed. Do you see how this is all coming in? Right? Your headache, right? Your headache is that like, oh my God. Headache is lack of control. Your headache is, I'm not saying that it doesn't include an overwhelm, but having a headache is all about loss of control. Like you're like, oh my God, I'm just trying to think about it. And oh my God, I don't understand. Like, why is this happening? And why did this happen to me? And why didn't this person do this? And all of these things. And it's like this constant. So think about all of those places that you're holding. So while you're a human being, there's several things that you can do to help process these emotions. So let's talk about a few of them. Well, one is going to be those 5 journals. I will tell you about this in just about every content that we do. I have on YouTube, I have the 5 journal series. I'm having a little something special being made for you guys that might have something to do with those 5 journals. But yes, you want to watch that. And the reason that there's the 5 journals, and I will do it on a podcast, even though I already did it on a YouTube, I will do it on a podcast. It's going to be very important. And no, don't just go, well, I only want to journal in one journal, or writing is so hard for me. No, you're creating excuses. Number 1, if you want to process your emotions, stop with the excuses. Stop. It's going to be hard. Of course it's hard. Is it harder to carry it? Is it harder to live like this? Which hard do you want? A hard that's not productive, or a hard that leads to something positive? They're both going to be hard. We are human beings. Welcome to the world of humanity where it is hard to exist. Acceptance, right? But so that's the first thing, is being able to process it. And the reason that we have the 5 journals is to not overwhelm your brain. It's great if you're writing in a journal, but there's a lot going in there, positive stuff, negative stuff, processing things. That's still taking the clutter from one place and dumping it into another, which is why we delineate and we delegate each journal for something specific. And there's a reason for it. Outside of just separating it so you can process it, it's also keeping you present. It's keeping you intentional. So if you're writing in the, let's say the negativity journal, you are intentionally supposed to be negative. You are intentionally going to write your negative stuff. You're intentionally going to give yourself time for a pity party. You're intentionally going to give yourself time to grieve. That's the intention by it. Well, if you're writing in the positivity journal, that's intentional based on some positive actions that you've taken for the day. So if your mind goes, oh, but that's why we have the negative journal. You just dump it in there. It's not, you don't date it. You don't, dear journal, like you don't do that. It's just a stream of consciousness. But there's a reason for it, because stillness helps process those toxic emotions. And yes, these are toxic emotions. I didn't say they're not normal. I said they're toxic, and they are, right? This is something that you're going to have to understand, that your feelings are not facts. They're real to you in the moment. They are your perceptions. You are feeling them. That is very true, but you're feeling them. Those feelings do not exist outside of your body. I mean, other people feel them in their way. Everybody processes different, but your emotions, they don't exist outside of your body. They only exist in your body, right? So as you're walking around harboring all of these things and shouldering all of this weight, well, that's a problem, because it doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's why you projecting it onto other people. You're frustrated, you project it. You're angry, you project it. You have guilt. Well, the guilt is totally ingrained in you based on something that you think, oh, what if I lose somebody? We still go back to fear. In the world of growing, you will lose people. Not might, you will. It is without a doubt, you will lose people. And some of those people are going to be the people who are closest to you. Not everybody who is in your circle is in your corner. It is so imperative that you get that. All right. So outside of just the mindfulness, right? So what is mindfulness? And I am a mindful expert. By May 1st, I will have 95,000 hours of mindfulness, of teaching mindfulness and practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness is doing something in the present space, right? So let me give you an example of that. Okay, let's see, because I got to remember, not everybody's going to be watching. Some people are going to be listening. If you're drinking water, okay, I want you to grab some water. Like if you're drinking water, you don't have to go grab it right now, but grab the water. Or you have it in a glass, you have it in a bottle, whatever you have it in. Feel it. Is it cold? Is it warm? Feel the temperature in your hand. What kind of a glass do you have it in? What kind of a bottle do you have it in? What's the texture? Drink the water. Is it cold? Is it warm? Feel the water go down. See the water hydrating you. That's mindfulness. That's doing life with intention. Here's an example of not being mindful. And I am massively a person who has to practice on mindfulness when I drive, because I don't know if you're like me, but there's been multiple times I get to my location and I think, I don't know how I got here. Wow, that's good. Because my mind was elsewhere. I wasn't mindful. Now you're not going to be mindful 100% of the day. It's okay to not be mindful. That's why I might crochet, or I might, you have a hobby where you don't have to just constantly work on yourself, because I will be the first person to tell you, self-help and self-work and self-love is work. It is exhausting. You do not have to sit there and just every second of every day do it, because then you're going into perfectionism, which is fake. Perfectionism's not real, babes. So that's why you want to be mindful. I'm mindful about 82% of the day. Yes, I know it's odd, but I've actually had, because I do mindfulness, right? So I've had my mindful teachers and everything, like they had me doing analyzation. So I'm about 80 to 82% on most days. Some days I'm not. Some days I'm like 40% at best. It's okay. The next day I just pick up where I am. I don't beat myself up and go, why was I not doing that? Why did I not do that good? Because you're not supposed to do everything good. If you are afraid to fail, and that's a big piece of these toxic emotions, if you are afraid to fail, you are stopping yourself from so much growth. Failure is the most spectacular thing on the planet. And I have a podcast coming out for you on it. It is something that I embrace. It's something I encourage you to embrace. It is an old rhetoric that you're not supposed to fail. It is an old rhetoric that if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. No, you start. You're not going to do it right. This is my very first video on here. Is this right? I don't know. Probably not. But it is what it is right now. And my first podcast was not all that great. But hopefully I'm a little bit better as I go along. Right? And so you're not going to knock it out the park every day. And that's okay. You can't worry about the perception of what that looks like to other people, but especially yourself. So another thing with the anger and frustration and fears, you have to feel it to heal it. I know no one said this is fun, but you got to feel your feelings. Don't just label them. Don't just complain about them. I'm mad. Okay. Well, what are you going to do about it? I'm so mad. I'm mad because they didn't answer the phone. Okay. Well, that's also, now we have to start analyzing ourselves, because now we're going into a little bit of entitlement. What do you mean? You're angry because you stood in line at Dunkin' Donuts 10 minutes longer than you thought it would be? Well, that goes into a little bit of entitlement and ego. Like, I'm in a hurry. Like, everybody's on your time schedule. I'm going to be late for work. That's not their fault. That's not their problem. You're creating your own suffering multitude of times with expectations. And that is a fact. With your expectations, you are carrying so much suffering because of your own expectations. And if you expect to do everything on the dot, I'm leaving my house at this time, I'm getting to work at this time, that's great to have a plan. It may not be the plan. It may be you get there, there's some road work happening. Now you're 20 minutes late to work. You're frustrated. You're angry. It's a normal behavior. It's a normal response, I should say. But sitting there and obsessing on it and getting mad and flipping people off and yelling at people and doing all those things, yeah, it's just no, hard pass. No, hard pass. That's emotional dysregulation. And that's why you want to be able to start practicing things like those 5 journals. And the reason why is because it gives you a space to vent these things. See, what you don't get to do is be angry and be frustrated and be guilty and be resentful and all these things and carry these toxic emotions and then dump them on somebody else. Because you're mad and you're frustrated and you're dealing with anxiety, all of a sudden you're irritated because people around you aren't, well, don't they see what I'm going through? Well, everybody has their own life. Everybody's going through their own stuff. So you have to say, is some of what I'm dealing with, am I inflicting that on myself? Am I creating this extension of suffering due to the fact of my expectations? Because a good portion of the time you are. So you also have to do a lot of introspective work. You have to do introspective work. This is where inner child work comes. I have a series, inner child series on my YouTube there. And shadow work is something I do with my clients, which is like 10 times deeper than just inner child work. No, don't go grab some shadow work books and think I'm going to do shadow work, because you'll never do it to the extent that you're supposed to be doing it to be effective. See, when I do it, we're going to go back to the scene of the trauma mentally. We're going to feel it again. We're going to relive it again, knowing that you're safe now. And you can't do that without doing the inner child work first. So they go hand in hand. So you have to ask yourself, are you so frustrated with yourself? Because that's when I started to make a change. In my early 20s, I started to make a change because I got tired of blaming everybody else. No one was coming to rescue me. No one was coming to save me. No one was coming to do those things. All I did was keep getting angrier and angrier, and nobody cared. So one day I was like, oh my God, I can't even stand myself. I don't know if you've ever gotten that way, but there's been times I'm like, I can't even stand my own company right now. Not because you're loathing, but because you can see that you're like all over the place. Don't hate yourself for it. Be compassionate to yourself because of that. Be compassionate because of that. And understand that you don't get a free pass to dump all over everybody because you're having a bad day. You don't get to just dump on a spouse when you walk in the door without at least saying, hey, are you in a space to hear me? Yeah, that's right. You don't have carte blanche. Just because you're married to somebody or you live with somebody doesn't give you permission to come in and just vomit all your toxic emotions onto another human being. And if people are doing that to you, you have to say, hey, I really want to hear this and I'm here for you, but I don't have the bandwidth right now and the mental capacity to be here for you at this moment in time. Give me an hour to process it. I just walk in the door. And listen, if they get their feelings hurt, they get their feelings hurt. Because you have to protect your peace too. Right? People get frustrated when you start setting boundaries. People get angry when you start setting boundaries. People start to resent you when you start setting boundaries because they're not benefiting from you like they used to when you didn't have those boundaries. That's okay. You're not responsible for other people's feelings. Now, don't go around being a jerk intentionally and like, I know this is going to hurt you, so I'm going to do it. Well, yeah, now that's a you problem. Yeah, that's not cool. But you have let's say you have a boundary, somebody doesn't like it, you can't be held up on how they're processing it. And that goes the same for you. So if someone has a boundary and they say, my famous one is I'm not peopling today. And somebody says, hey, to you, hey, would you like to grab some lunch? And they're, no, I'm not really peopling today. I'm just, and that's about all they say. And then you get your feelings hurt. Well, that's for you to process. Because now suddenly you've taken it on as it's you. Somebody doesn't want to spend time with you. Well, it isn't all about you. It's the person doesn't want a person today or they don't want a people today. So you also have to get clear in what it is. And in order to do that, you can't just label your emotions as angry, frustration, and guilt. There is a great labeler there, but why are you there? Well, because they're not doing what I want them to do. Oh, expectations. Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't understand. I asked her to come over. She went out with friends last night and she wouldn't come over tonight. Oh, okay. So now we're dealing with some attachment issues. You see what I'm saying? So you want to do some introspective work to figure out because you being mad at a girlfriend for not coming over for dinner is just the symptom of a way deeper rooted issue. The things that you're dealing with right now are just symptoms of a deeper issue. And that's what's causing those toxic behaviors that are very normal. Okay? Very, very normal. You're going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel angry at times. But are you going to process it or are you going to let it live rent-free in your body? And I said your body because I just told you where those things live. Especially if you're dealing with all those together. My goodness. And I think there's a guy, Dr. Cerno? I don't know. I know he's been on Howard Stern before. And he had talked about how back pain has to do with emotions and stuff too. So this is a scientific thing. It isn't just, I'm not just telling you this on a podcast because it's fun. I'm telling you because this is facts, right? Because your body and your mind are all wired. That's why your stomach is another big place of serotonin, right? It's not just your brain. Your brain houses serotonin. So does your stomach, right? So this is why you want to check yourself. In the best way that you could possibly do it, you got to check yourself. You have to remember that every human on this planet, we're all winging it. Every one of us on this planet, every one of us listening to this podcast, we are all winging this thing called life. So you have to remember that you're accountable for your actions. Don't intentionally hurt somebody's feelings, but still protect your peace. And if they get hurt because they don't like what you're doing, that's not for you to process, and vice versa. Right? So that's the wrap on our very first episode on the video. But yes, like I said, this will still be on regular podcasts. I am going to put the video up, I think maybe the night before. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't figured it out. I'm just all trying this for the first time. But the podcast itself will not change. But I love you guys. It's kind of fun doing it this way. I kind of dig it. Please let me know in the comments. Please let me know on my Instagram if you want me to do more of these, because I think that there's a really good place for it. And I know I want to do anything that I could possibly do to give you as many tools as I can in your toolbox to help you as much as possible. So with that being said, I want you guys to have a rock star week, because you know what? You are a rock star. Feel your feelings, but process them.